There are songs you hum without thinking. There are songs you dance to, the ones that move your body. And then there are songs that look you square in the eye and ask a question. Just one question. Which side are you on? Today on Dustbin Prophecies, we trace the story of one of the most endearing protest songs in American history, carried into national consciousness by Pete Seeger, but born in the blood-soaked coalfields of Appalachia. This isn't just a song, it's a line drawn in the dust. We begin in Harlan County, 1931. The Great Depression is crushing working families. Coal miners in eastern Kentucky endure low wages, dangerous shafts, and company-controlled towns. If you lived in a mining camp, the company often owned your house, the store you shopped in, and even the deputies who enforced the law. When miners attempted to unionize, violence followed. Armed guards patrolled the hills. Families were evicted into tent colonies. Organizers were beaten or jailed. The conflict would be known as the Harlan County War. One night, union organizer Sam Reece goes into hiding. Armed men storm his home looking for him. Inside are his wife, Florence Reece, and their children. After the men leaves, Florence sits down and writes. She borrows the melody of a Baptist hymn and replaces its devotional language with something sharper. Which side are you on? It's not a prayer, it's a demand. Before it ever reached a national audience, the song traveled through informal networks of labor organizers and folk collectors. In the 1930s and early 1940s, collectors working alongside the Library of Congress and left-leaning cultural groups were documenting Union songs from Appalachia and the South. Florence Reece's song circulated orally amongst miners and organizers. It was sung at meetings, in strike camps, and at union gatherings. The melody was simple enough to travel, and the lyrics adaptable enough to survive. Now let's shift back. Pete Seeger was born in 1919 into a deeply musical and intellectually engaged family. His father was a musicologist, his mother a violinist. Music and social conscience were intertwined from the beginning. He briefly attended Harvard, but left before graduating, drawn instead into field recordings and living traditions. Meeting Woody Guthrie in the late 1930s changed everything. Guthrie's Dust Bowl storytelling shaped Seeger's compass. Together in the Almanac Singers, they performed songs supporting labor unions and anti-fascist causes. Later, as a founding member of the Weavers, Seeger experienced mainstream success. Folk music briefly entered the pop charts. But the political climate was shifting. Pete Seeger encountered the song through this labor song network, likely via fellow organizers and song collectors connected to the Almanac Singers and the broader Popular Front folk music movement. The Almanac Singers, which included Seeger and Woody Guthrie, were deeply embedded in union activism. Songs moved hand to hand, voice to voice, long before commercial recording. Seeger didn't discover the song in isolation, he inherited it. He began performing it at union rallies and hootenannies, where it entered a wider circuit, college campuses, peace gatherings, and civil rights meetings. He recognized immediately what made it powerful. It didn't argue, it asked. And he realized that questions travel further than speeches.
From all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell, of how the good old Union has come in here to dwell.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
My daddy was a miner and I'm a miner's son, and I'll stick with the Union till every battle.
Musically, Which Side Are You On is a steer. It's a simple chord progression with a march-like rhythm and a repetitive melody. By design, it's easy to learn, easy to sing, and because of it, this song wasn't meant to be played on the radio. It was meant for the picket line. When Pete Seeger recorded Which Side Are You On for small labels such as Folkways in the 1940s, the sessions reflected the song's origins. The song had minimal production, just Seeger and his long-neck banjo. You can hear his breath between verses, complete with his human tempo, akin to a lone march or heartbeat. Folkways founder Moses Ouch valued documentation over polish. The goal was preservation. In the studio, the song was not entertainment, it was evidence of a movement. By the early 1950s, America was deep in the Cold War. The Soviet Union had the atomic bomb, the Korean War had erupted, anxiety about communist influence spread through politics and culture, and at the center of that fear campaign was the House Un-American Activities Committee. Hollywood actors were subpoenaed, screenwriters were jailed, careers simply vanished, and folk singers brimming with protest songs were not immune. Pete Seeger had performed at union rallies. He had been involved in popular front politics of the 1930s, and like many artists of that era, he had briefly been a member of the Communist Party, something he later acknowledged openly. By 1955, association alone was enough. Seeger was subpoenaed before the HUAC in August of that year. During committee testimony, many witnesses invoked their Fifth Amendment. Seeger chose a different path. He invoked the First Amendment. When asked about his political affiliations, he replied that such questions violated his rights to free speech and free association. And then he was cited for contempt of Congress. In 1961, he was convicted and sentenced to 1 year in prison. Though the conviction was overturned on appeal in 1962, he spent years under the shadow of that sentence. He was blacklisted. Television networks refused to book him. Major venues distanced themselves. His group, the Weavers, struggled under suspicion and eventually disbanded at the height of the Red Scare. For over a decade, Seeger was largely absent from national television, so he went elsewhere. Colleges, summer camps, union halls, and small theaters. In that forced exile, something unexpected happened. A new generation encountered him face to face. The blacklist, intended to silence him, pushed him deeper into grassroots culture and made it stronger than ever. When the pressure came, he had answered the question himself. The civil rights movement during the mid-20th century adopted it. Anti-war protesters revived it. Labor organizers and anti-fascists still sing it. Verses change and are being continually adapted, but the chorus remains. Which side are you on? Florence Reece reportedly wrote the lyrics on a calendar page. It was a throwaway piece of paper out of convenience. It was a temporary paper emboldened with a permanent question. When Pete Seeger carried it forward, he credited it. He ensured that a coal miner's wife from Harlan County would be reimbursed. Before we close this record out, let's sit with a few things that make the song even more remarkable. First, the melody. Florence Reece didn't invent a brand new tune. She borrowed it from a Baptist hymn, sometimes called Lay the Lily Low. That matters, because hymn melodies were already in people's bones. They were communal, familiar, easy to sing in a group. She took something sacred and turned it towards justice. And then there's that banjo. Pete Seeger didn't just play the banjo, he redesigned it. He added 3 extra frets to create what became known as the long neck banjo. Why? So he could play in lower keys, so crowds could sing comfortably. Think about it. He physically altered an instrument not to show off, but to make participation easier. That tells you everything about how he understood music. And finally, the reason this song refuses to fade? It is continually being rewritten. Teachers on strike have sung it, climate activists have adapted it. Workers organizing warehouses and coffee shops have rewritten verses to name their own employers. The framework holds because the question still holds. In moments of conflict, no matter the cause, the pressure point is the same. Neutrality becomes harder. Choices become clearer. And somewhere, whether it's in a union hall, a church basement, or a city street, someone starts singing. Which side are you on? That's not longing nostalgia. That's continuity. Every era produces moments that demand clarity. The names and the circumstances change, and the stakes shift, but the question remains. Which side are you on? From a kitchen table in Kentucky with a borrowed hymn, to a folk singer with a long-necked banjo, they both beg the question that refuses to fade. This has been Dustbin Prophecies. If you'd like to hear the song we featured in tonight's episode, or any episodes of the song you've heard on Dustbin Prophecies, check out our curated playlist to hear all of them. And if you like what you hear on the podcast, leave us a review. And don't forget to subscribe to get all future episodes wherever you hear your favorite podcasts. And thank you.